So real quick, story of My Tech High. This is our family. We've got 5 kids. My background, actually, I played basketball here at UVCC back in the day. So that was a fun experience. And then I transferred over to BYU and graduated from BYU with my education degree. I got a master's degree in education. While I worked at Novell, they sent me to a Stanford business management program, and so I got kind of the business side of education, which was great. And married with 5 children, not much more education, better education than being a parent. Here's some of the work experience. So I served the LDS mission in Uruguay. Love that. I've taught grades literally from classes of students from kindergarten to college. Amy and I actually were a business presentation adjunct professor for UVU several years ago. And so we enjoy teaching. We love the educational experience. I've been a director of at-risk youth program. I got a grant to bring online learning into the classroom when I was a classroom teacher back in the mid-90s, right when the internet was brand new. And that was pretty exciting. That led to a job offer at Novell, a software company in Provo. So we were living up in Washington to come run an online education program for Novell software engineers. And since I had been doing online education, even though it was for middle schoolers, I had a nice fit to just understanding the online learning industry back in the 90s, and so got that job at Novell. I was at Novell for 13 years, and part of that time was the director of training, both on-site and online, and then moved over to a business marketing role, and that was an awesome experience. All during that time, and this is one of the things I would have you keep in mind, we always did entrepreneur pursuits on the side. So we strongly believe in getting a full-time job and being an entrepreneur on the side. And then we had many failures, we had many successes. You know, it's an up and down world being an entrepreneur. Work on that model, in my opinion, until you find something that actually then fits who you are, the lifestyle you want, the pursuits you want, and then depart from the main job and do that full time. That's what we have found, and that's what we really enjoyed over those years. So My Tech High and Novell overlapped for 3 years. And then after those 3 years, we saw that we could forecast enough of revenue and expense that we could make a decision, okay, it's time to depart the full-time corporate job. Anyway, another fun story I won't even get into today, but we sold an early startup company to Donald Trump back in 2004. That was kind of a fun experience. I've been a chair and a board member of many different entrepreneurial organizations and education institutions throughout the years. I've done tons of research on public schools and school choice and disruptive innovation education models, and I'm going to share a little bit about that. So we founded My Tech High in 2009, and we absolutely love it. So here's the vision that we set out, and I'm pleased to report that we've kept this slide the same over all those years. So, everyone talks about, adapting, and we've done plenty of pivots and all those things, but it's funny to look back. We literally have kept this same vision the whole time, which is kind of a patriotic message that we felt at the beginning, was that our country was founded on innovation and entrepreneurship, and schools don't teach those concepts. They don't teach how to be innovative and think like an entrepreneur and be creative. We teach you how to follow the instructions and follow the norm. We also believe that every child is different and learns differently, and you can't have standardized blocks of kids. That is not how kids learn. And so much of our education system is built on standardized children. And we just don't believe that exists. And we believe that you should work with parents to create personalized education. Third, we also, and this was the theme of My Tech High, we didn't do My Dance High or My Fine Arts or My Math High. All those things are great. But we thought, if we could build a strong foundation in technology, we'll set up our students for success in college, career, and life. No matter what path they pursue, a strong confidence in technology will allow them to be successful. So that's My Tech High. That's our vision and our summary, and we're pretty excited about that. Let me take a few minutes to talk about disruptive innovation. Raise your hand if you've heard that term before. Clayton Christensen, the leader of it, talks about disruptive innovation. So here are two, I don't have their names on there. Does anyone know these two? I just mentioned Clayton Christensen on the right. Anyone know the guy on the left? Who is? At Google and was at Novell. He was at Novell when I was there, and he left Novell to start this little company, or to be the CEO, the business side of this little company started out of some closets in Stanford called Google. And I remember the day he announced he was leaving for this little company called Google in 2000, and we were all like, oh, that sounds cool, I wish we could go with him. And we didn't, and he did. So he was at an event a few years ago here in Utah speaking at the Utah Technology Council, and the reason I have him up here on Disruptive Innovation, he declared to everybody, I've seen some disruption start to occur in the higher ed space, but not so much in the K-12 space. And that was kind of, to me, I remember it specifically when he mentioned that, I thought, you know what? My Tech High is a disruptor in the K-12 space, and I'm excited to do that. And then, of course, Clayton Christensen has written all about disruptive innovation. So, disruptive K-12 education. The leader in that works for Clayton Christensen. His name's Michael Horn. He's part of the Clayton Christian Institute over K-12 disruptive education. And I had a chance to email him just last summer and said, you know what? I have tried to follow the disruptive cycle of innovate around the edges, and then policy and competitors and establishment tries to catch up and try to squash you. And I said, you know what, here's what happened with My Tech High and all these things that we faced over these years. And he wrote back and said that quote. And I thought that was pretty cool, that he thought our story was extraordinarily interesting, intrigued by all of this, and that he wanted to talk to his team about it. So anyway, that was kind of just neat to be able to describe that My Tech High has followed the disruptive innovation cycle, and we were able to map to the different steps that they predict companies go through who are trying to be disruptive. So I encourage you to kind of do that same thing as you look at a market or an industry that you want to disrupt. Read the books and see if there's ways that you can identify non-consumers of a service and go serve them and find a niche that the big guys in the market aren't serving, and you'll soon disrupt, and you'll get a lot of, the Uber and Lyft thing. That's the whole disruptive thing of going around and trying to find needs in the market that aren't being met, and then push regulation will then catch up. So who else are trying to do disruptive or at least help disrupt K-12 education? Oh, I was going to go back. The $600 billion, I put that number out there because if you take an average of what every state in the United States spends on average per kid per year, and then times it by the number of K-12 kids we have in our country, it's a $600 billion spend. Every year, our government, this is just public ed, this is what our governments across the 50 states spend on education, and that's probably even higher than that, because that's an average, and you could, if you take a really low Utah average with a really high New York average, and there's more kids in New York, it'd probably be higher than that, right? But it's about $600 billion market of what our government spends on K-12. And that's because it's so big, it's very heavily regulated and it's hard to disrupt. But you can disrupt it. So that's what's exciting. And here are some people who've tried to put their money where their mouth is and saying, we need a better education system in our country. Everyone knows who these are, I presume. Mark Zuckerberg, a few years ago, donated, anybody know how much he donated to the New Jersey public ed department? $100 million. Said, you know what, New Jersey schools are failing kids. I'm going to give $100 million to inner city New Jersey public ed system to help them. I won't go into analysis of if I think that's money well spent or not, but he tried. Bill Gates, everyone knows his foundation. Hundreds of millions of dollars poured into helping education improve. Oprah, she does the same thing, both nationally and internationally, pumps a lot of money into K-12 education to see if we can help improve it for kids. A lot of people don't know the guy on the right. Anyone know who he is? George Lucas, Star Wars founder. Who did he sell Star Wars to a few years ago? Sold it to Disney. Right after his sell to Disney, Bill Gates, I remember, had invited all these philanthropists to donate half their wealth to charity. George Lucas donated, anyone know the number? You could look this up and say, how much did he donate to start Edutopia after the sale of Star Wars to Disney? $4 billion, which is focused on education improvement efforts. That's big. So that these people are trying to do something to improve our educational system that all of you just recently graduated from, and now are in the higher ed portion of it that could still use some disruptive innovation. I'm sure you could agree, but we won't go into that. Then I wanted to say, you know what? Sunday, 2 days ago, I read this article. I thought, hey, I'm going to share that with the UVU class. So it's dated Sunday, March 8th, 2015. The California governor offers $50 million prize for anyone who can come up with a good, innovative idea to disrupt college. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So there was, like in the article, it said 51 people have already, organizations have already put in their proposals, and they're going to announce that this summer. So I'm curious to see who in California, who in the country gets that $50 million bounty to disrupt higher ed, and what are they going to do with it? So stay tuned. I mean, this is real time. So this is happening. So it's pretty exciting. Democrat, which traditionally in California is on the side of public ed and higher ed, and almost in a protective point. And so it's kind of a landmark thing. And you'll notice, even if you start getting into education, it's very mixed politically. There are things that Democrats love about education reform that many Republicans support, and vice versa. And so it's actually one of those social topics that doesn't go straight down party lines at all. It crosses quite a bit in philosophies of how to improve education for kids. And that's one of the reasons you don't hear about it all the time, because no one really wants to promote something they both agree on, because we live in more of a divisive society, and so things they agree on don't make headliners. But there's a lot of overlap between political parties on education reform. These are a couple of things that so then moving from disruptive innovation, then you have to move into the space I call continuous innovation. So I'm sure you've read of those books, right, of lean startup, where you get in and you see what customer will pay you for something, and then you build that more and you see what another customer will pay you for. Instead of build something in a closet and launch it with a lot of money, you iterate slowly or quickly with feedback from who's paying for you. And I think it's a great model, is find out what your customer wants, build it. If they'll pay for it, what else will they pay for? And keep building it like that. That's the lean startup model, kind of the business model generation approach. All right, so what are some of the big decisions that we made as we went through this process that helped us get to where we are? First decision was, we want to do good in our lives. We want to do good pursuits. So at first it was like, I think we should start a nonprofit, because nonprofits do good. And so that was our first. So should we be a nonprofit, or should we be a profitable company, for-profit company? So this was a decision point we were making. I was watching it like a History Channel or a Discovery or something, a documentary on Walmart. And it profiled these executives from Walmart working 100-hour weeks and meeting every Saturday to look at that week's sales numbers. And they lived in a state of paranoia that their market share was decreasing to Target or other big box retailers. So I was like, I don't want to live if I'm Walmart making what do they make, $1 billion a day in revenue? 200 or 300 billion a year. It's like, and they live in fear and paranoia. That doesn't sound like a very fun business to be in. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go nonprofit. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be all nonprofit. So then I went and explored that route and found that most of the nonprofits every day were freaking out about where to get money from the for-profit guys. Because that's who funds, either government or for-profit donations is who funds the nonprofit. And they were all scared every day that the for-profit companies they had partnered with weren't going to continue their donations. So it was like, well, I don't want to do that either. So anyway, we said, well, let's see if there's a social entrepreneurship approach. So that's what we did. We are for-profit, but we strive to be in a world that, and in a model that is helping good things happen in the world. So anyway, hopefully that helps you in your decision tree of for-profit, non-profit. What kind of focus do you want to have in your life? Another big decision point was helped by a gentleman named Josh Coates. Anyone know who he is? Say it. So Canvas, I think UVU uses Canvas. He is the original founder of Instructure that produces Canvas. And he started that after he sold Mozy for $70 million to EMC. So he was given a similar lecture like this. I was sitting in the audience. He was talking about his experience, and he said, and it was a pretty important thing for me to hear from him, so I'll hopefully pass it on. He says, pick your path. And I'd say all of you, in your entrepreneurial pursuits, you got to pick your path soon. And that is, do you want a bootstrap lifestyle type company, or do you want to be a VC scale and sell company? Both are legitimate pursuits, but don't try to intermingle them. If you start off wanting a lifestyle company that you have bootstrapped with your friends and family, and it gives you good profits and a good lifestyle, and you're doing good in the world, don't pretend that then that should also be worthy of VC money, 2 or 3 years down the road. Or it might be, but again, if you start early, you can define your path. And if you're going VC scale and sell, there's a way to do it and do it right, and figure out talk to the right attorneys and the right people to do it right from the beginning, and not try to intermingle those over time, or it will create frustration. And I've seen people who thought they were starting a lifestyle company but turn it into a VC, and they get really frustrated because then you turn over a lot of control and a lot of decision-making power to those who are paying the bills, right? So don't get frustrated when you have to do that, knowing that you've switched your path. And so we chose, I'm going to share this story, and then we chose to do a lifestyle company. So My Tech High is a lifestyle company. It is not a VC scale and sell. And we have had to return to that decision many times to make sure that we know exactly what we're doing next, because you make different decisions based on that path. And it's been really helpful to stay true to that decision early on. And I'll share some more about that. But I want to share this story real quick. The fisherman and the MBA, because this kind of cemented the lifestyle decision for me. So real quick, this MBA goes on his, and I'll use his instead of his and her just to make it simpler. MBA goes on his annual trip during the holidays to the beaches of the Caribbean, and spends the 1 week off a year down there, and he notices this guy on the beach. And he's there all week, and every day he's on the same spot, and he sees this guy who's just lounging around on the beach, and about 1 o'clock goes out in his boat, catches a bunch of fish, comes back, gives it to his kids, and they run off to their family, and he relaxes the rest of the day on the beach. And the MBA sees this after each day, and he goes up to him finally and says, man, looks like you're a skilled fisherman. We could really, using my expertise, we could help you buy more boats, do a whole fishing business, collect tons of money. You could ship your fish all around the world. You could, package it up. You could freeze dry, whatever, just spouted out all these business ideas. And the guy said, well, why? And the MBA said, well, we could do that, and then we could sell it really big, and you could, and this is where the punchline comes, so then you could just go retire and sit on a beach and just relax all day and just fish once a day. And the guy's like, I'm already doing that. Why would I want to do all of that other stuff to do what I'm already doing? Does that make sense? Anyway, it has impacted me to say, What is your why? Why do you want to do something? What is it you're trying to achieve in life? And make sure you know what that pursuit is on each of your decisions. Anyway, I hope that story helps you as it helped me to say, you know what, we wanted a lifestyle business for a particular purpose. We have a track meet at 3 today with our daughter and a soccer game in Salt Lake tomorrow at 3. All these things that we wanted to do with our family that sometimes a VC scale and sell wouldn't allow for. And so there's a time and a place, and I get all that. So just pick your path and know why you're doing it. And I think that'll help lead you to success. All right, so let me share some key lessons I've learned that we've really tried to stay true to. So Michael Porter, big Harvard Business School guy, talks about business strategy. And I was in a meeting where he presented, and I heard him personally say this, and it has always sunk in. That the essence of strategy is not choosing what to do, it's choosing what not to do. And I really think that if you, in your entrepreneurial pursuits, remember that quote, because what happens is, and we've had this all the time, hey, have you thought about da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da? Hey, have you thought about My Tech High doing da-da-da-da-da? Have you thought about, and people rattle off great ideas from the sidelines all the time. Hey, have you thought about putting in tons more work to do, and it's like, well, yeah, we've thought about it, and it's tempting at different points to say, oh, we should really pursue. There's no shortage of things you can do in a business. You can always say, okay, I'm selling a shirt, so what else does that customer buy? Oh, they buy ties and a dress and this, so I'm going to go up and down the catalog, or I'm going to go to a broader audience, younger, old. I mean, there's always something you can do in any business. No matter what it is, there's always up or down or sideways you can sell. Choose what not going to do is important to keep you focused on delivering. Again, going back to why are you doing your business anyway? And as you do that, focus. And you'll be able to really be more successful than if you chase lots of different pursuits at once. So, trying to stay true to that counsel, we identified right at the beginning 3 markets that we could pursue with, I haven't even really told what My Tech High, well, I think I show that on the next slide. This is what My Tech High does. We identified these 3 business pursuits. And we said, you know what, when we master one, we'll move on to the next. So in 7 years, this fall, we're still on number 1. And to us, that's just fine. We're dabbling in number 2 and maybe number 3 within the next year. But still, after 7 years, we've tried to just say, you know what, we manage a full-time online program through public schools. And I'll show on the next slide what that model looks like. But another very legitimate business market is just selling our online tech courses that we've developed to private pay parents. That's a whole nother market that we could definitely pursue. And then third, there's all kinds of private and public schools in the country and world that want to teach kids tech. And we could definitely sell our courses to them. So you can see 3 distinct business models, and we've just done number 1. So here's a quick picture of how our number 1 works. The public school receives funding from the state for every student that they enroll, and they hire our organization to manage a personalized program for them. That's it. And so the parents are tuition free because it's a public education. We're simply a program of choice that kids can opt into in their local school. And we also then, because of that model, we license core curriculum from a bunch of different providers. So math, English, history, science. So we haven't built those ourselves. We just license those, and then we tack those on with the tech courses we've built for kids. So that's pretty simple, but it's a very good model. It's a model we copycatted from other big players in the industry that have done the same thing. So it wasn't like an original model, because others have been doing it for years. So we just looked at what the industry looked like and could we replicate and make something our own. And we did. So here's what I'm really proud of is our 27 tech courses in Canvas. So we use Canvas. We used Moodle for a couple years and then moved over to Canvas. And we have now developed all of these courses for kids inside of Canvas. And, if you can't see in the back, Minecraft, Java programming, mobile apps, Python, robotics, engineering, game design, animation, sound mixing, digital artists, become an entrepreneur Shark Tank style. Anyway, so we have all these courses that are targeted for kids. Some of these are for 6-year-olds. So again, just imagine we have 6-year-olds logging in every week into Canvas to do a course. I think that's pretty cool because we're trying to prepare them for future life and success. Imagine 18 years later of using Canvas when they finally show up here, how much more experience they'll be. Anyway, that seems so far away for these first graders, but they're doing it, so it's kind of fun. So that's our course catalog. And again, if you go back to those business pursuits, right here, we could easily sell those to individual private pay parents. You can imagine a whole different business market to, Google and SEO and all, trying to create online business marketing strategies are different than a full-time program. Okay, this is what I would also, if you had anything to write down from our time together, is Seth Godin's sentence that is, to me, the best marketing strategy I've ever come across. And I ran a marketing division at Novell for many years, and this is the holy grail of all marketing. It really is. Be irresistible to a small group of passionate sneezers. Every word in that is important. So irresistible, you've got to make at least a portion of your customers that they cannot live without your product. At least the small group, be irresistible to them. Then hope or develop or find a segment of those customers who found it to be irresistible. Can you instill in them passion about your product? And it's not too far of a line. If it's irresistible to them, they're probably going to become passionate about it. And then can you enable them to sneeze? And by sneeze, it means spray your message to those around them. That is really what the ideal marketing strategy is. Irresistible to a small group of passionate customers who then tell their friends and family about it. And then those are bigger and bigger passionate sneezers that can spread your message on your behalf. We have found that to be a really powerful principle. We only marketed in year one in the traditional sense of demand gen or lead generation or whatever. And since then, we've had passionate sneezers that tell others about our program. And these are our actual numbers. Year 7 we're projecting somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 students in the full-time program and you can see where we started with 92 in year 1. So it's pretty cool. This I want to show. So we have a student showcase night because all of this is online. And just so you know, a lot of people think online learners are just closed in their house, but our families are very social, very open. They meet daily in different venues. But we hold a student showcase night, and let's see, I don't know how to push the play button on here, so let me do it on. So I want to show you just a 3.5-minute clip on a recent showcase night, just to give you some cool inspiration about kids, if you haven't. No. I'll just play it directly. See if that works. Oh, yeah. You got sound? No, I pause it. That's all the way up. Oh, maybe we won't have sound. Anyone want to sing while the... It's a lot cooler with sound, but...
I'm not sure. Any suggestions? It should be simple.
Yeah, there's not audio. Nope, I don't see anything. All right, not essential, but you can all see it, mytechhigh.com/Utah. It's posted there, so we'll just go on to the next one. Okay, so business pursuit number 2. So this is where I said we're starting to just dabble a little bit. We're thinking this summer, so this is our current website, kind of optimized around selling the online tech courses to private pay parents, not to the full-time program in Utah. But it's not something we have launched in terms of doing, paid ads or demand gen or, all the different social media things you could do. But it's sitting there. We're wanting to, make sure we're ready and how that will impact our lifestyle pursuit. So this leads to kind of this counseling session. So one of the things that we are kind of discussing is in this pursuit of private pay parent model, should we spin that portion out and make it a VC sell and scale model? Do it right from the start with VC funding and just go big or go home on that side? Or should we keep it inside of our traditional lifestyle model and just do it a little bit at a time, little trickles in, as we ramp up. Another question, should I personally focus on that spin out, or should I keep with our lifestyle company that we're enjoying and hire out for that? And what are the risks and sides of that? Should we hire or even acquire competition that are in that space or just go out and compete and try to dominate it? What's the right balance between hiring or go hire people from a competitor and see if how that works? How do we really know that, Canvas says they can, but can they? What if we were wildly successful? How do we test that we get 10,000 students if we, get into one course? Can that scale to that model? Or 100,000 or 1,000,000 courses? We get a lot of people that say, hey, you should translate your courses. All these cool tech things you could sell into Brazil and sell into China, sell in different places that need it localized. Should we invest in translating the courses? Or just keep it in English and say, you know what? In China, they are required in 5th grade to start English classes. So maybe just have, and most tech in the world is in English. So maybe just keep it in English. We have lots of requests of course development. Should we keep building more and more courses, or should we double down on the top ones we have and just sell the lights out of those? It's, or do you broaden your catalog and to attract more? Should we simultaneously license to schools, that number 3 business pursuit, or do that later, right? Should we have both sales side of private pay parents as well as school, different sales cycle, different marketing materials you need for both, or just wait for later? We talked about that one. This kind of these last two, instead of just pursuing the more business side, should I pursue more of the passion I have around changing all education models and really get into the ed reform world of influencing states and legislators and school boards and all that stuff to make changes that I've learned can happen if you do X, Y, and Z to help them be successful. And then last, a lot of parents that go through our program end up at college. And as we're doing here today, the lecture model has its place, but is not sometimes the most engaging learning experience you can have. So parents have said, hey, Matt, why don't you go disrupt higher ed and try to figure out how to make higher ed more affordable, less student debt, and more applicable to jobs. So that's been an invitation, and I'm trying to maybe dabble a little bit there, because we have so many people leaving our program that are going to higher ed and not finding what they had hoped to find. All right, so that's kind of one slide I wanted to pause on. Anyone have any thoughts or questions or ideas, or if you were our counselor? Or Amy, anything you would add? Been a good experience. Yeah.
Have you thought, your program, is it all-encompassing? Is it like a high school program, or can you do selective classes? I was wondering also if you've ever thought of marketing that to charter autistic schools here in Utah.
So 2 questions, just to repeat. One is it an all or nothing type program? And 2, are we marketing to charter schools that serve autistic students? Is that accurate? First question, it is for the Utah program, it's all or nothing, in the sense of this becomes your full-time schooling experience, not part-time. In California and in Alaska, we have a part-time model where schools buy our tech courses just for one portion of the student's experience. Okay? Second is we actually have a high number of students with autism in our program, as it is very much personalized to the needs of each child. A lot of parents really enjoy that. And in terms of marketing that to schools who already service them on site, that would be more of that business model number 3 that we haven't pursued yet. So, does that answer your questions? Thanks.
So, I guess to kind of throw back something you set it up.
Yeah.
What's your why?
Yeah.
So if your why, and it sounds like to me, your why, you like education reform. And if that's what you want to focus on, then maybe spending all of your time on this step 2 is going to take you away from your why. So it might be in your benefit to hire it out, because like I said, I think it ultimately goes back to what is your why. If your why is to spend time on education reform, that's probably going to take time away from it. But if your why is to see this next division of business, then focus on that. I think ultimately
Thank you.
That's what you should focus on.
It's a good discussion, right, Aim?
Yes, but I like number 2 better than I did 1 personally.
Well, and I guess that's
So I'm glad you're here. So.
Well, and that might be the thing is, you're a partnership, but you could maybe focus on number 2 while he focuses on what else. You could split your time.
And we did have that conversation.
Divide and conquer. So
I said, okay, you take it then, right? Great point, though. That you've heard our conversation. So thank you, though. That is what we have to answer. Yep. Good. Any other thoughts or?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So how long did you wait to make this your full-time job?
It overlapped 3 years with Novell.
Okay.
Yep.
I made him wait that long. He would have taken the job sooner.
Yeah. So we.
It's unique to have a husband and wife.
It is, and that's why Shauna and Theobald invited both of us to come. She knows Amy as well and knows that she is intricately involved in this business pursuit. It's not just me by any means. And, I said we started with 92 that first year, and I approached my Novell management and said, hey, I want to, do this education technology thing. And they're like, yeah, that doesn't seem to compete. Just do it on your own time. And that's great. And most companies will do that with you. If you're demonstrating that you're putting them first and all that stuff, they're very open to good, skilled people who want to have other pursuits. It's a very common model, so don't forget that. And so we had 92 the first year, and she's an accountant by trade, and so she can see easily the profit and loss statements. And so I think we first said at 200 kids, you can leave Novell. And so the next year we had like 170 or something. And so I stayed. And then that for some strategy decision, that number got bumped to 500. So, because we had 170, so the next year we had, I think, like 220. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. And well, let's go to 500. You're okay. So we got to 500, and then I left. So that's how that worked. But it was, again, I have to say, we together had spent 10 to 15 years doing all kinds of practice entrepreneurial pursuits. And some stuck, some didn't, and you just be patient, and you'll get there.
Are
exciting thing about your program in your opinion?
It's that video. It's these, in that video, there is I think she's 12-year-old girl showing her Minecraft Java programming project in front of this crowd with all this code. I'm not a coder, that she is talking through, and the booleans and the if-thens and the da-da-da-da-da, and she's 12. And in the audience was an adult son of someone who was in the program visiting from Alaska, who's in the Navy in their IT department. And here's a quote from him. He said, "Her code looks cleaner than code my team builds." That was his, he's in the Navy in the IT, department up in Alaska, and he says that about this little 12-year-old girl. So that is what's most exciting, is just truly seeing these kids unleash creativity and not be bound by the structure that we suck the creativity out of kids in school. And that's what our system is doing. And to see people who are freed from that and allowed to go at their own pace and pursue things of interest on a personalized education model, it doesn't get better than that. That is exciting.
Another quick question. So I'm about to have my first kid, and this idea sounds amazing, but you said there's a social aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Explain the social aspect, because that's what I worry about,
Mm-hmm.
doing the online, doing
Yep.
something like that.
Will you? Just the story that you just read about those families and all taking turns doing this,
Yeah. When I was,
Well, it's just for the video.
Oh, we have to stand right next to each other?
We don't have to.
We get to stand right next to each other?
Here.
Okay.
Because I'll start to tee it off. We are encouraging all of our children to have their children be in a homeschool online environment and none of our children were, but we are seeing what these parents are doing, and it is amazing.
Who am I talking to specifically? Okay. If you just even Google co-ops or homeschool groups, there's countless ones in Utah County and all over the state where you gather with families that are like-minded, have similar goals for their kids' education, similar values, and they meet regularly, daily, weekly, and teach how and what they want to teach, I guess I can say. So they meet every day. It's like going to school, but they may be in a rented building, but they still have a classroom, they still have socials, they still have dances, they have all the sorts of social interaction, but just in the environment that the family is comfortable with. Is that what you?
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I will do whatever I can to enable my children to let them personalize the education of their children. It's so inspiring what they can do when they are
Own it.
free. Yeah, when they own it.
Yeah, it's really powerful. So it literally just starts with a few families gather together and say, hey, do we want to do this together? And you can figure it out. There's so many. One term I hear is called home sourcing. That's kind of what our program enables, is find the resources your family needs to educate and run with it. And just another example of that we've seen is families that like to travel, that have the means or have the flexibility of a job to travel. School keeps you from traveling. I mean, we've wanted to take kids on trips and things like that, and we can't because they come back after 2 weeks of missing and they have a stack of papers they have to do, and it's miserable for them. So they won't let us go during the school year. A couple other questions. Right here.
I have a question about your number two, about having the program for the parent. You said that
It's private pay to the parent for their child.
and so it's coming out in the summer.
That's what we're working on. We're debating if...
What is that going to entail? Is it just for the summer program?
No, that is to market to parents who will pay a couple $100 for their kid to take an online course on Java programming.
Because they have like the STEM programs up at U.
Mhm.
I like research a lot.
Yeah, the great robotics up at the University of Utah, the summer camps.
For the summer.
Mhm.
But you
We target, our average age is the 10 to 14-year-old group is really who most loves our courses. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can go out there and buy it today. We just don't market it. So you can buy it. Although the current structure we have, the course will end in May. And so anyway, it's kind of interesting. So that's, one of the reasons it kind of overlaps in business models, and so we can't merge them. You have to have courses that are no start and stop dates and open entry, open exit that we just haven't done yet.
Hey, Matt, I'm sorry. I'm still thinking about this other guy's question. I think it's curious. We'll just tell about our enrollment for next year.
The number of the percent.
Typically, the new kids to our program have always been homeschooled. So we're taking them from the homeschool into our program. By far, and I've seen this trend grow each year, but by far for our 2015-16 program, the new kids to the program are from traditional brick and mortar schools. The parents
First-time homeschoolers, first-time onliners.
It's just a real trend that is
And
growing
research says that market's growing 20 to 30% a year
because they're so dissatisfied.
with the standardized program. So we're out of time.
We'll wrap up. We've still got 2 spaces for lunch, so if you guys want to. All right.
Oh, I was gonna LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me and go check out those 2 videos. Yeah, good. Thank you.